Okay, now we have fully completed the two main, I'll call them Shadow Hearts games. And we've seen both endings from both games. Now I'm going to go into full-on spoiler mode here, so this is going to be a separate video. And I'm going to discuss about what I think happened in the end of the quote-unquote good ending of Shadow Hearts Covenant and the good ending in this one. Now this is just speculation because, well, I mean, no one really knows. This is one thing the developers have never confirmed is whether what happens to Yuri at the end of Covenant, which ending is correct. There are hints that the bad ending where Yuri loses his mind is the official ending. I believe the Ring Soul says something about how something bad happened to him in from the New World, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And I also like to pretend that the other ending is official. What a lot of people believe happens in the good ending is let's think about what is going on at the end of Covenant. Kato is creating this rip in time space, and it is allowing people to travel forward and backward in time. Not so much forward. I don't think anyone goes forward in time. A lot of people go back, and they're thinking about their fondest memories and where they want to go, which is why we see Geppetto with his daughter. We see uh, Joachim being a wrestler. Corando and Anna are together, so you'd assume that they want to be together and they really don't care what time they're in. That could also tie into why Anastasia is lost and never heard from again, because that's one thing that they do not stick with is the killing off of the Romanov family. So I'm just going to assume that they died later and then Anastasia's missing because she's off with Corando. Who knows, because obviously that is a huge change in history. But Rasputin's evil and he's dead, so I mean maybe they blame it on him if the Romanov family ever does end up dead. Um, so, yeah, and of course, Karen ends up going and becoming Yuri's mother. Now, here's where the confusion takes place. Because if that's the case, then we know that if anyone goes into the past or anything, that it doesn't really seem like things change, but they do because Yuri's alive because Karen went into the past. But I mean, it depends on what form of time travel you believe. If you believe that someone going into the past cannot change the future because they've already been into the past in the past, which is what it seems like with Karen, then this next theory about Yuri and Alice I'm going to throw out there is completely null and void. However, if you believe that there are alternate dimensions, then that's a completely different thing. Then we believe that at some point Karen does go back into the past and become Yuri's mother, but that could be a different dimension. She might not actually be Yuri's mother in this sense of the game. However, it is her in the picture, or at least someone that looks like her. And Anastasia gives her the papers so that she can be known as Anne from Russia instead of being a German. I'm not really entirely sure. But anyway, back to this ending of Shadow Hearts, which we just watched. This is considered the good ending, obviously. I've always wondered how, if Alice lived, how that would set up the rest of the story, what would have happened in Covenant, because obviously Nikolai is still going after Yuri and still wants to go after him because he's the God Slayer. That has nothing to do with Alice being alive or not. So I've always wondered how Covenant would have worked if Alice were alive. And that brings us to the next theory. A lot of us believe that at the end of Covenant, when Yuri goes back in time, that he has actually gone back in time. Some people believe that it's just Yuri's heaven, that he's just reliving what he loves over and over again because he tells Alice in the train that if he could go back, he would go back to the moment that they met. So, does he actually go back in time? Is he dead? No one really knows, and that's what the developers haven't confirmed. But a lot of us like to believe that Yuri went back in time, and now he knows what is going to happen to Alice. So he knows that Alice gave her soul up because at this point in the game, Yuri doesn't find that out until she dies on the train, and then he finds out that she offered her soul up. Just like the fact that he didn't know until we read the tombstone. Otherwise, even though we fought all the mask or whatever, he has no idea that Alice is gonna die. So I think that's very interesting that him reading the tombstone has that big of an effect, and I think that's really sweet, actually. Random sweetness. But yeah, a lot of us like to believe that he went back in time and was able to save Alice, therefore making this the official canon ending of the game. Now, that's how I like to look at it, and that's why I like to pretend that that other ending of Covenant doesn't exist, because then that kind of throws a monkey wrench into this game. One interesting note of something that I just found out about was that apparently Yuri wasn't even supposed to be in Covenant, that it was supposed to be Karen and Nikolai were the main characters. So that kind of throws a wrench into Karen being Yuri's mother, too, because did they have that in mind before? Was he just going to be like a side character? Who knows? But apparently, once they announced that they were going to do Shadow Hearts Covenant, and they didn't announce Yuri, that the Japanese fans raised such a stink that they ended up putting Yuri into the game, which I can't imagine Covenant without Yuri. It revolves completely around him. So I'm kind of interested to see, like, and if that's the case, that means they would have had to redo the entire game. So I don't know if that's 100% true, or if that's again just the developers trying to mess with us because they didn't release any information about Yuri until the very end. But could you imagine? They would have had to remake that entire game unless they were still in the development stages and they were throwing out different ideas. That I can believe more than just them saying, hey, by the way, people want Yuri in it. I guess we're gonna have to remake this entire game because people want Yuri in it. So yeah. Let me know what you guys think about these endings because again, nothing is confirmed. The only thing that we have confirmed for sure, obviously, is that originally the bad ending of this game, the one that we saw previously, is considered canon because it leads into Shadow Hearts 2. In Shadow Hearts 2, the only thing that we have confirmed from the developers is the big ending wise anyway, is that Karen is Yuri's mother. So, yeah. So again, I like to believe that Yuri went back in time and was able to save Alice, which then in turn makes this the actual canon ending. So, I also, like I said, I want to know how this would lead into Covenant. I thought about writing a short story about that, but it wouldn't be a short story because it'd be like the entire game. So, and I'd have to figure out how Karen would still become Yuri's mom and blah blah. It would just be insanely difficult. So, yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do now is leave me any questions that you have about Shadow Hearts in general, specific items you have questions about, characters you have questions about, anything that you were confused about in general. I know one person left a comment that I'll go ahead and answer now, or how I feel about it. Had to do with Joachim, and they wanted to know if I think Joachim's really gay, or if it's just him being eccentric and kind of over the top like Keith. Okay, well, here's the thing. I don't think Keith is gay. I think Keith is just eccentric because he's a vampire. And we really don't see too much of him being eccentric except for when he gets the demon sword, then he's very eccentric and there's like flowers everywhere, but I mean, whatever. He's also French, I believe. So, oh no, he's not French. Sorry. He's from like Romania. Why would I say he's French? I don't know. I'm just thinking like, ooh la la, I'm French, I'm romantic. I'm sorry, that was very stereotypical. Uh, let's cut that part out. Oh God. So anyway, so I don't think Keith is gay. I think he's just eccentric. And in the ending, we see him with a bunch of girls. So I really don't think if he were gay that he wouldn't have admitted it and come out. And why would he still be hanging out with girls? That doesn't make any sense. Or have girls laying all over him. So unless they're doing his hair or something. Oh, as for Joachim, I would say probably yes, just because of what happens at the end of the Man Festival, like how he has to have sex with what's his face, the Great Gamma. Uh, I don't think most straight guys would do that. I mean, we see Yuri freaking out over it. So, yeah, I would assume that Joachim is gay just because almost every single one else in the wrestling tournament is gay. I don't think we see one person that is a wrestler in that is not gay. But yeah, I mean, there's no confirmation. And at the same point, most of the characters that you know are gay are way over the top and super eccentric, even more so than Keith was. Because Keith's just like, oh, look, I got a sword. But we got Mayun, who's like all over Yuri all the time, who's all over all the guys all the time. And then we have the uh, peddlers, or what, not peddlers, the shopkeepers, or whatever they are, in Shadow Hearts Covenant that are all like shaking their butts all the time and oh my goodness, blah blah blah. And so obviously we know they're gay. Shadow Hearts doesn't really do a very good PC version of gay characters. So if there is a PC gay character, I guess it would be Yoiki. But am I for sure that he's gay? No. Is he probably gay? Yes. So anyway, that was one question that I had one person ask me. So yeah, just leave any questions that you have about Shadow Hearts in general on here, and I will try my best to answer them or at least give my opinion about them. So yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed both of these Let's Plays because I enjoyed doing them. So yeah, and if you weren't a fan of Shadow Hearts, I hope you enjoyed this and enjoyed the story and were introduced to a great game series. I hope that some of you will go out and get the games yourself. For those of you who know and love Shadow Hearts already, thank you for taking this journey with me. And yeah, again, just leave your questions that you have about Shadow Hearts, and I'll try my best to answer them. Alright, guys, I will see you next time when I'm answering questions or in the next Let's Play.